Well, welcome everybody. This is Alex Mall. I'm the Communications Officer for the e-rulemaking program, the program that manages regulations.gov. I'm joined by my colleagues today, Shanita Brackett, the project manager for the team. Also, Adam Nick Williams, the deputy director, and also Bryant Crow, our resident expert in the docket management system and the training as well. So today's webinar and live chat will be for an hour. We're going to kick it off here and just kind of tell you a little bit about the goals, the agenda as well. So the goals is really to allow everyone to kind of see a more in-depth perspective or look about the different tools and features of the new release. I'm sure that many of you have probably had a chance to kind of explore it on your own, but this is kind of an opportunity to kind of also ask questions if you have any for us. We did receive quite a few in advance, and we'll be sure to take those up as well. And also, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to tweet them to us. We're now live on Twitter, and I'll be following along on Twitter and taking your comments and questions as we proceed. So this is our first time doing this, so please have some patience with us. But we do look forward to chatting with you here. So and thank you again for attending. So the agenda, just real quick, is just this quick intro. Then Sheena is going to go over the actual redesign with the home page and different web tools. Then Adam's going to take over and chat with you all for about 10 minutes. He'll give an overview of the APIs and as well as share with you all about what's new and what's kind of coming down the pipe for this spring and summer. So I think that'll be really interesting for everyone. And then at the very end, from approximately 1:35 or so until 2 p.m., we'll kind of open it up to Q&A, and all of us will kind of chime in to answer any questions you have regarding the various aspects of the redesign, our plans, our goals, our vision, our strategy, etc. So, all right, well, thank you for your time, and I'm going to hand it over to Shanita, and she can begin the webinar. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Alex has mentioned, our entire regs team is here, and we're delighted to spend the 1 hour with you introducing you to the new redesign. Just a reminder for your questions, if you would please send them via Twitter or email. If you're going to tweet your question, you would send that to our Twitter page, regulations.gov. If you're going to email your questions, you would send an email to our communications lead, who just introduced the entire team, Alex Mole. His email address, in case you don't have it, is moll.alexander@epa.gov. Thanks. And we'll get started. What you should be viewing here is a PowerPoint as a reference tool. I'll go over the PowerPoint, a few slides, and then we'll go live to our website. And there we will explore some of the new features and functionality. Following the webinar, we will send this PowerPoint out to all the attendees. So please don't panic and try to take lots of notes. You will receive this as a takeaway for the materials. As we mentioned, our agenda includes a look at our new features and functionality. We'll also go over details of the APIs. As an overview, our new redesign includes a homepage redesign, new search, browse, and learn tabs, a global header and footer, search page improvements, public comment and social media improvements, and again our APIs as outputs. We'll go over all of these items in detail. Here's a quick look at our new homepage and how things have changed from the old design to the new design. And these items I'll explore more as we go live to the site. A look at our Browse tab, just to give you a few details here. We included 10 new categories for users to discover regulations. The 10 categories include aerospace and transportation, agriculture, environment and public lands, banking and financial, commerce and international, defense, law enforcement and security, education, labor, presidential and government services, energy, natural resources and utilities, food safety, health and pharmaceutical, housing, development and real estate, and finally technology and telecommunications. We also have a new Learn tab. With the new Learn tab, we offer an interactive way to explore the regulatory process. Here, users can learn more about the Administrative Procedure Act. They can walk through the stages of rulemaking and learn more about the contents of a rule, including the preamble. Our next slide shows a depiction of our new search results page. One of the biggest improvements we included here is the ability to sort and filter your search results using a left-hand navigation panel. New filters include the ability to filter by category. And here's a look at our APIs. Again, we will hear more about the APIs later in the presentation. So what I want to do now before we move on to those APIs is actually go live to the website so that we can explore some of these new features. You should see the homepage, the newly designed homepage of regulations.gov. As I explained, we have a new header navigation where users can click to go back home from anywhere on the website. Under our Help menu, users can explore ways to use regulations.gov. They can view our frequently asked questions and also take a look at our glossary so that they can begin to understand some of the terminology that's used consistently through the site. They can also visit resources, including our site data, the latest and greatest in the regulatory agenda, as well as agency reports required by statute. Currently, the Department of Transportation lists these types of reports. And finally, through the header, users can provide any type of feedback or ask questions. These feedback, suggestions, and questions go directly to our help site. As I mentioned before, new to the home page is the ability to navigate and look at items under search, the new Browse, which includes the 10 new categories, as well as Learn. We also offer a list of frequently asked questions for new users. They can understand, how do I find a rule? How do I submit a comment? How do I find my comment? And understand whether or not comments make a difference. What we've been able to include on the new redesign that was also featured on the old design is the ability to search through regulations with comments due soon, as well as newly posted regulations. By clicking on any of these hyperlinks, users are taken to the search results page, and then they will see the different types of regulations and the durations for which they've either been posted or when they would be closing soon. I'll click here as an example. By clicking on regulations with comments due within the next 30 days, we get a list here of documents with comments due in the next 30 days. Users are then able to sort or filter in order to narrow their results. We'll go back home so we can explore more of the home page features. We also offer an area to highlight different initiatives or events that take place on our website or with our partner agencies. Here you can see we've published our webinar. We certainly did publish when we relaunched. There's also links to the President's Executive Order, and we like to promote our new Facebook page. You will see throughout the year that these shades or panels will change so that we're advertising or marketing new initiatives. We also include a global footer. The global footer includes links to all of our site pages. So in essence, it acts as a site map. From here, users have the ability to search, go to advanced search from anywhere in the website, to browse by category, browse by topics, and of course learn. There are other links under About Us, under Resources, as well as Help. Even if users want to explore our new APIs, Application Programming Interfaces, they would click here for the developer's beta link, and that takes them to a PDF where they can learn more information. We also include links to our social media pages, including our current RSS feeds, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Partner sites are even listed in our global footer, including our sister site, Exchange, links to Federal Register, RegInfo, Thomas, USA.gov, and the eGov and OpenGov pages within OMB's website. Let's explore the Browse tab. As I mentioned and displayed during the PowerPoint, there are 10 industry-related categories listed on our Browse tab. With any of these categories, users have the ability to explore all federal agency documents listed under these categories. Here on the Browse tab, however, we include featured regulations. These are regulations that have been published within the last 7 days and open for comment. With any of these featured regulations, users also have the ability to comment and share. If users want to share, they have the options to share on Facebook, Twitter, and of course email. By clicking on the Comment Now button, users are able to submit a comment with one click from the home page. We'll use this as an example. And on the comment page, there are metadata fields that users can complete. And submit their comment. A user could preview and then submit from here. We'll go back to the home page and then explore the search results page. With the search field, I'm going to enter a keyword. You'll see there's some suggestions that are also provided. This list here represents common keywords that have been entered into our site. On the search results page, we get the total number of results. We have a confirmation of the keyword that's used. And then we can explore more with the different sorting options as well as filters. The default sort is best match. Obviously, I can narrow my results or resort them based on comment due dates, title, document type, and document ID number. Here I've selected comment due date. I could also begin to narrow my results by agency by clicking any letters in the acronym or the agency's name. I can narrow the results. I can also begin to explore different documents within categories, document types, docket types, post-it dates, whether or not there is a comment period that's opened or closed, and also the comment due date. Within the search results, I also can explore additional metadata to ensure that I, in fact, am interested in this particular document. This is what we call our document highlight, and this is new for our website. Here we provide a snippet or the text surrounding the keywords used for the search, as well as metadata for the docket, including title and ID, whether or not a document or docket has a REN assigned to it, the docket type, and again, whether or not the comment period is open or closed. For many of these documents listed in the table, if it's open for comment, I have the ability to submit a comment directly from the search results page, as well as open the docket folder from the search results page. I also have the ability to see even more results in my list. If I want to see fewer, I can select 10. If I'd like to see more, I can select 50. I've selected 50 here. Next, I'll click on a link to the docket folder. With this current redesign, we use the same color and template for the site pages. I just want to let you know, though, that we have many, many more plans in store to improve the docket folder. We'll explore some of these later in the presentation. Here on the docket folder, users can filter by including keywords. Users can also include public submissions, other supporting related material, notices, rules, or proposed rules. As you know, these are our 6 document types. For any of these documents, users also have the ability to view in the formats that are provided by the agencies. In this example, the agencies have uploaded PDFs. As with our old site, users have the ability to export the results in the table, as well as sign up for email alerts. I want to take you back home so that we can finally explore the Learn tab. As we've discussed, here on the Learn tab, users have the ability to understand and learn more about the regulatory process. We have a depiction of the regulatory timeline, beginning at the pre-rule stage and ending at the final rule stage. There are also alternative statuses of long-term and completed, descriptions for all of these items are provided below as you click through the graphic. For more information, we've also included links to the informal rulemaking process, a site that's managed by the Department of Transportation, as well as a map of the regulatory process, a map that's displayed at reginfo.gov. That concludes the tour of the new redesigned website. I'd like to remind you once again, if you have questions, please tweet them or email them to Alex Moll. Next, I'll turn it over to Adam. Adam will provide us with information on our APIs and also give us a look at our next features.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Adam McWilliams. I'm the technical lead for the eRulemaking program, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the new features of the site that we released a couple weeks ago, and that's the APIs. APIs stand for Application Programming Interface, and they're a tool that allow developers to write applications and websites that interact with information on regulations.gov without having to go to the regulations.gov website. And let's see, we might switch it back to the presentation here. Thanks. There we go. And for those of you that are having trouble hearing us or following the slides, we're going to post this all online a little bit later on, so you'll be able to see it then. And if you do have questions, like Shanita said, please tweet them, and we'll address them at the end of the presentation. So the APIs, we're releasing them in two waves. The first wave are data out APIs, and these are APIs that will allow researchers or other agencies or third-party websites or application developers to pull data programmatically from our website and incorporate that data into their own websites, into applications, or to use it for research purposes. So that's the first wave, and that was released, the initial, we're calling it a beta release of that, came out with the redesigned homepage on, what was that, the 28th? Yes. On the 28th. The next set are commenting APIs, which will allow people to feed comments into the system. That could be used by services that feed comments, that aggregate comments for interest groups and feed them into our system. And they can also be used by agency websites, potentially, to present the commenting form through their own websites. And the goal with both of these things is to allow us to bring the regulations.gov data closer to where users are already going. So if a user is going to a news website or the Federal Register or other places, an agency website, we can allow those sites to publish our data through their own outlets and basically promote the use, expand the reach of our data. And the same goes for the commenting APIs. It moves the commenting feature closer to where users are already going, hopefully making it easier to participate in the regulatory process. So moving on to use the APIs, it will require an API key. Now the API key is not, there isn't a lengthy process that you have to go through to register these keys. It's as simple as going to our comment form and entering your username, entering in your first and last name, a valid email address, and if you represent an organization, you put that information in as well. And once you submit that to us, we'll turn the key around to you pretty quickly, probably within a matter of hours, if not one day. But we get that out there, and the reason that we do the key registration is if a person who's using the APIs maybe accidentally submits a query that contains too much, that returns too much information or is causing system problems on our end, we can turn off that key's access and give them a call or send them an email and just ask them what's going on. And for the commenting in API, we can see who's feeding the comments into the system and call somebody if there are irregularities or if there are problems with the way comments are coming in. But anyway, those keys you can request now by going to our website, regulations.gov, and you go to the comment form and enter the information I mentioned, and you should get a key pretty quickly. We've already had at least 10 organizations and sites are using the keys already in the last couple of weeks, and we expect to have more. Most of the feedback's been pretty good, but like I said, this is a beta, and so if you use it and you have recommendations for us, please send them on. We pay attention to that feedback and incorporate it into the new releases. So that's the APIs, and that's one of the big new features. Alex, do you have any questions right now for APIs?
Just a quick thing. I noticed that we had a couple of questions before the webinar about where to exactly find APIs, and I think in this case the user probably is asking for like where to click exactly to actually get the API key. So can we show that real quick? Or,
actually, let's pull up the site and we'll go through that real quick. The first thing I'll show you is down at the bottom in the fat footer. You can click on developers, and if you go to the fat footer like we have up on the screen, at the bottom you'll see a resources section. At the bottom of the resources section there's a link called developers and with the word beta next to it. If you click on that, that'll pull up our API guide. It might take a little while to load here, but it's a PDF that explains how to use the APIs, and it also includes instructions for requesting your key. Now, to request the key, if you want to go ahead and skip pulling up that PDF, if we go to the feedback and questions section, there on the right under Connect With, see feedback and questions. You just put a message in here, put the API key request in the subject, first and last name, and an email address, and a phone number is helpful for us as well in case we do have to shut it down. You know, the more contact information we have for you, the better. That way we can get in touch with you and try to work things out. So username and phone number, and that'll be enough. You know, a human's reviewing this. This isn't going into an automated system. So as long as you indicate you're requesting an API key, and maybe in the notes, if you're representing an organization, you can tell us who that is, and then I'd put it under technical question. I don't think it'll. If you put in suggestion by accident, I think it'll still work. It'll still go to the same person. So that's how you request a key. Did that answer the question?
I think so.
Okay, all right, great. Yeah. So this is just one of the new things that we're doing with regulations.gov. One of the big meaty features that we've included that we've at least begun to include in this release. And so throughout 2012, you'll see a number of big features coming out on the site. We're focusing on 3 major areas in 2012. The first is improvements to the website. You've seen a big overhaul of the look and feel of the main page and some of the search features. We're going to continue to improve the look and feel stuff. We're going to continue to improve the quality of our search results, both by trying to improve the ranking system that we use so that when a user searches for things, they have a better chance of landing on exactly what they were looking for, and also including new search dimensions so that we can allow people to search by industry code, by other new features, by other new search dimensions. As we move through 2012, we'll also be looking at moving from a document-based browsing model to a docket-focused browsing model. So instead of your search results returning documents and having people naturally flow through the site directly to documents, we're going to have people flow to dockets. And we do that because the docket provides more context. The docket will show all of the documents that are included in the docket. It'll also include an easy way to look at the comments that are associated with that docket. And so this is a change that we've been planning for a while, and we couldn't get it into this past release, but we'll be starting to make the transition over the next 2 releases to a docket-focused experience. Of course, with that comes an overhauled docket page and document page. We know that we have a lot of improvement to do on those pages. You won't see those improvements in this release that we did 2 weeks ago, but improvements are in the works. So if you'll bear with us, we're getting to them. And that'll also include changes to the comment pages. And we're looking at changing the way comments can be viewed. Some of the feedback that we often get is that people have a difficult time viewing others' comments on a given document or on a given docket. And so we're looking at overhauling the way we do that as well. So that's the first area we're focusing on, site improvements. The second is APIs, and we've talked a lot about that already, but we're going to be implementing the commenting API throughout the rest of the year, and we'll be continuing to refine the data out APIs that we've already discussed. The third area with regard to regulations.gov that we're focusing on is we call opening gateways. And while we're trying to improve our site and we're trying to improve the search results and we're trying to extend the reach of our data through APIs, we're also trying to improve the way that people direct visitors to us. And that's mainly focused on improving the way that we accept links on the site. So instead of just linking to a document by its internal document ID, we're also enabling links to that document by FR number. You can get to dockets by RIN number. And so improving the flexibility with which people can link to us, that allows people to predict, the owners of other sites, to predict the URL that is used to get people to regulations.gov. And in the end, the goal is to make it so people, if you go to a news article or if you're on an agency site and you see a link to regulations.gov and you click on it, it's not going to drop you on the main page. It's going to take you directly to the document, docket, or comment page that you're looking for. And that, we think, will improve people's experience greatly. There's no reason, if somebody already knows what they're looking for or is in an area of that's focused on pesticide regulation, that we take them directly to the main page and make them search for it again. So we're going to be reaching out to those that link to us, both agencies and private sector sites as well, and with guidance on how to better link to us, and on our end trying to improve the way we accept links. And then lastly, we're also going to continue to explore using social media, as we're doing right now with the Twitter, with using Twitter to accept questions. And so we're going to continue to experiment with that. We have a Facebook page. The commenting API raises interesting possibilities that we'll explore. We've got, those are the three main areas that we'll be focusing on in 2012. But we love to get feedback, and we're very open to incorporating feedback. So those of you that have ideas, please send them our way.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Adam. That's a good recap. That's a good overview of what's next. We have received at least a few folks who have emailed me that they've tried different computers and the presentation remains stalled. So our apologies for that. It looks like people can still hear us though, so that's good. So now it's 1:35, so we're actually right on time, and so we'll now begin the Q&A. I've got my colleagues here. Again, my name is Alex Mall. I'm the communications lead for the program, and now I will be taking your questions. I think we've got time to take most of them, and also, by the way, any questions that we don't get to, we will be sure to respond, whether over Twitter or even email. So we definitely want your voice to be heard in this process, and we're looking forward to establishing a relationship with all of our stakeholders. So, all right. So let's begin with some questions that we had prior to the webinar, and these will be questions that perhaps weren't able to be answered during today's talk and presentation. So let me just begin real quick here. One question came from someone that was sort of about the history of the program, which I think is important to just quickly summarize. So the person asks, when was regs.gov first launched, and what was the motivation and vision? It really all began with the E-Government Act of 2002. So in that act, Congress really wanted to have an actual online portal where the public could really have more of a voice and actually inform the process. And the eGov initiative is really committed to increasing access to and participation in developing regulations and other related federal decisions that can impact the public. I know that over Facebook we've had a couple of different posts that have even included, for example, different like presidential task force, for instance. So that's been important. Also, another major purpose of that act, of that piece of legislation, was to really promote a more efficient and a more effective rulemaking through public involvement. So it's really been stitched into the fabric of really how we do things since 2003, or rather 2002 when the act first was created. But starting in 2003, the e-rulemaking program was launched, and we first saw the regs.gov website, which really enables citizens to search, view, and comment on regulations issued by the U.S. government. So really, that vision we still carry through to today, and each web release is a way to try and implement that vision in a higher quality and really advance the mission of the program. So that's one answer. So let's take another question as well. Let's see. Let's take one actually from Twitter. We'll just go back and forth. So on Twitter, the Knowledge Network, Athena Bridge, you're asking us, what do you think about letting users see each other's comments? What are the pros and cons? So I'm going to open this up to the entire team. I know we've had a couple of internal talks about that. It's certainly on our mind. Sheena, do you want to take on that?
Yeah, sure. Currently, the site offers the ability to view all public submissions or comments. We don't have the most intuitive way for users to see that in a threaded display. And that's something that we've been talking about internally, improving our layout and design on our web pages so that, one, it's obvious that a particular item is a comment, and two, how that comment has been viewed or commented on by others. Regulations.gov offers the ability for any type of comment to receive another comment from another user. However, it is up to our federal partner agencies whether or not they want to implement that type of feature. Some agencies choose not to, and others allow that. But again, we want to improve the way that our pages are designed and laid out to make that a bit more obvious. The second thing I'd like to point out is currently when a comment is submitted through regulations.gov, the agencies are reviewing those comments once received, and then they're posting those comments back to regulations.gov. So it's not a real-time display of comments as they are received through the website, not in all cases. I don't know if we will ever get to a point where we allow users to see other comments before they're submitted, but we have discussed it internally, allowing users to even collaborate on comments before they're actually submitted to the agencies. So we welcome additional feedback and suggestions regarding that.
Yeah, it's something that we certainly think is important, and have gotten a lot of. I mean, we all acknowledge that it's a good thing and it's helpful for users, for commenters to be able to see other comments, and so that's something that's one of the focuses of the site.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys. Let's see what else we have. This is kind of a good question, because I remember on Facebook seeing a couple of people asking this, maybe perhaps in different ways, but I think as a team it might be kind of nice to address this one. This is kind of more of a macro question about kind of the process of rulemaking. They're asking, how can you and do you make sure that regulations passed have beneficial effects, and how if you do you keep tabs on their effects? And then that person also says, how can you make a regulatory policy more certain and less complex? So in some ways there's two questions here. One is sort of about the process and whether or not we're involved in making sure it's beneficial, and the other question is more about in some ways how rules are communicated. So well, I think I'll take a quick stab, unless you want to try and answer that real quick.
Well, I just want to point out our mission and our responsibilities lie in displaying regulations when they're published by agencies, as well as the supporting materials that agencies draft and publish and even receive comment on as they are publishing proposed rules and notices and even interim final rules before these things go final. And the specific question really does not fit within our umbrella of ensuring that rules or regulations are beneficial. But that task does lie within the federal agencies. In fact, the Executive Order 13563 that was published last January of 2011 requires, and I say that word very carefully, but certainly encourages agencies to provide the public with access to the different documents that are used to determine how rules and regulations are beneficial, what are the pros and cons, and to give the public the ability to collaborate with them and provide comment on them or just informal discussions. So again, that responsibility lies with the federal agencies, not the e-rulemaking program. If you want to learn more about those specific suggestions and requirements, feel free to read more about the Executive Order 13563. And in fact, we have a link to it in our footer here, and it goes directly to the PDF for that document.
Great. Hope that answers the question. I think it does. You know, for your part B of the question, I mean, certainly, you know, the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs has put out a number of memos to really communicate to agencies and really ask them to make sure that they clarify different rules and regulations with, for example, like a summary paragraph. So there have been a number of efforts within the government to try and clarify rules. There's also been an effort for the past couple of decades called plain language to really make rules more clear. We as a program really, that's kind of outside of our responsibility, and we can't really you know, say pro or con as far as whether or not a particular rule you know, may or may not be clear. But certainly we can clarify different rules over Facebook and Twitter and try and contextualize it a little bit to make it more clear. And that's something that we're continuing to do with social media from an educational standpoint. Let's see what else we have. I think that what else do we have? There was also another question about. So this question is about what are the next steps for increasing a public participation outside of online spaces. You know, I can take a stab at that, and then if anyone else wants to chime in, they can. I mean, right now, you know, our budget and our current environment of kind of constrained resources really probably prevents us from being able to do too much that's outside of the online realm. But certainly, for myself and others who have witnessed the power of face-to-face dialogue and public deliberation, we do see the value of it. So that's all I can say for right now. I mean, we can't commit to anything like that at that scale yet, but certainly it's something that is important, I think. Does anyone else want to add to that? No. Okay. All right. That's another question. I think let's go back to Twitter. Those were certainly some questions that we had beforehand. Oh, this is interesting. This question comes up a lot, and I think it's always good for us to kind of continually address it. It's really about the whole notion of a comment and whether or not it's a vote. So this person's asking, you know, will you allow the public to vote and let all others' votes so we can see which ones have support? I mean, Adam, do you want to take on that?
So I'll start off by saying that comments are not votes, and the purpose of the commenting process is to receive constructive feedback on a rule, so to provide information that a rule writer can use or a policymaker can use to improve the quality of that rule. You know, if there's a rule with 100,000 comments that say I hate this rule, and there's 3 comments that provide constructive information for how that rule could be modified to make it better, the huge batch of negative comments don't add a whole lot of value to what the rule writer is trying to do. So it's not a vote, and I think agencies would be very quick to point that out. But, you know, we do accept those kinds of comments. We accept comments that are short one-liners that are opposed to a rule. And, you know, I think that still adds value to what we're doing because, you know, somebody might comment once or twice and just say, you know, I don't like this rule, or hey, I'm in favor of this rule, and that's their only comment. But once they learn how to comment and use our system to comment, we hope that maybe the 3rd time or the 4th time they provide a rule with some meat, you know, that has some information. There was a great story that we heard, maybe from OMB Watch. One of the guys at OMB Watch told us the story about a nuclear plant that was being built, and it was being there was a rule that came out around the construction of this plant, and somebody wrote in to suggest that the brush be cut back I don't know, a certain amount of distance extra from the facility. And the rule writer took that information, incorporated it into the rule or the notice or whatever it was, and a couple years later, a forest fire raged through, and the plant wasn't damaged. And that was an example of the impact of a comment. And so, one thing that we're trying to do, while we do accept those comments, is we're going to try to provide guidance on how to construct a constructive, meaningful comment through the site. We don't have that up there right now, but that's one of the things we're looking into doing, to help people provide comments that are meaningful to the rule writer and can have an impact on the regulation. So they're not votes. There has been some discussion around sentiment analysis of comments. We've been talking about it, but this has been kind of a sticky issue because agencies are quick to point out that even if we do take the sentiment from comments, they're still not votes. So they're not votes, but we are interested in receiving those comments and potentially someday looking at attaching a sentiment to those comments.
Great, thank you, Adam. All right, we still have about 8 minutes or so that's time for more questions. I'd like to. There was a question earlier on Twitter from Rick Otis, and I just want to say here that Rick Otis is a longtime stakeholder of the e-rulemaking program, and he's asking about this. So how about linking to U.S. code and CFR, so dockets and docket documents can have live links to these references? That's a great question, Rick, and I'm going to hand it over to Bryant Crow, who's our expert in that.
Yeah, that's a great question, Rick. And in fact, it's certainly an area that we've been researching for some time. And the current categories that we're using, that we've introduced, those 10 categories, while they appear quite general, they are based on CFR citations as a way to create these categories. So the idea here is that we're going to, in subsequent releases of regulations.gov, as Shanita and Adam pointed out, we're going to continue to build on this current platform of the redesign and expand the current categories to include U.S. code as well as CFRs, because CFRs, although they are not accessible or you don't see them as a dimension currently, we plan on developing those so that they are there so that users can, within the search results, refine their results based on these CFR citations, which currently structure how the categories are organized. Another point that I'd also like to add to adding those dimensions to the search results are within docket folder, we plan on adding pre-rule, proposed rule, as well as final completed, as well as long-term action as additional stages which can be viewed on a timeline. As I pointed out, those are the unified agenda rulemaking stages, and those will be additional dimensions for which users can further refine their search results in a similar manner that users are able to refine their search results based on these 10 categories. So that's a great question, Rick, and we're certainly working along those lines, and we plan on, bringing those additional dimensions of CFR and U.S. code to you very soon, as well as NAICS.
Hey, Brian, I just want to piggyback on that. You were describing the stages that are published in the Unified Agenda, also known as Regulatory Agenda. So are we planning to allow a real-time display of that sometime in the future?
Yeah. In the near future, we do plan on providing real-time display of documents as proposed rules, and notices are being published or issued by agencies, published in the Federal Register. We can actually show or display on a timeline the actual stages for which these documents were published or issued by agencies. And again, we find that will be a very useful search dimension to make available to users, as many users are, very familiar with using or reviewing the semi-annually published Unified Agenda.
We've had a couple of, we do review those ACSI surveys that pop up on our site, and we've had a number of comments about exactly this. I don't know if they came from you, Rick, but but we've been looking at them, so that's been something that's on our radar, and we're looking at incorporating that into the docket and document pages too. I think that it'd be cool. You got another one, Alex?
Let's see. Man, we're just rolling through here. Let's see. You know what? Let's just keep this one chat up about. So America Speaks is asking, or America Speaks replied. So we'll do a little continuation here of this dialogue. So America Speaks is asking. Okay, so they're saying that comments are purely qualitative, but some agencies may care about the quantitative level of public support or opposition to a rule. So I mean,
I think that it's not. I think that number one, it's something that we have to be careful about as the e-rulemaking team is commenting, because sure, an agency may look at it and see 10 million comments opposed to something. Maybe from a political perspective, they'll take notice of that. That's possible, but we need to be clear about the fact that these aren't votes. This isn't a petition. It's not a vote. So yes, volume of negative comments or positive comments may have a bearing on the way people proceed with a rule, but that's not something. If that happens, that's certainly not official. I mean, that's
Yeah.
Right.
I'd like to add another point. I mean, as well, Alex mentioned earlier the plain writing, interests around plain writing and making that, making agency rule writers aware of incorporating plain writing into their rules and notices and proposed rules. And by doing so, the idea is to make public participation more accessible to the many, not the few, so that we can get comments that are useful and that actually inform the decision-making process within agencies. And as Adam pointed out and shared with us that really good example, or the story that was provided by OMB Watch about a citizen who submitted a comment and how that comment really shaped a final rule in a very significant way. In the same way, in that same spirit, we wish to make rules and public participation more accessible so that agencies can get, high quality comments rather than votes. Although quantity is important, and it's certainly best to get, we're all interested in getting more increased public participation. But again, it all, the rub is actually getting high quality comments that actually create better decision making in government.
So I think about, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think about it sort of like it's an electronic public meeting about something. They put out the rule and people show up and they make their comments, and yeah, I mean the number of people that's there probably does it affects how people take notice of evaluate things, but you also have to have content and meaningful information, constructive information, for them to maybe change the policy or adjust it a little bit.
Thank you. I think we have time for just one more. And actually, this is an important one that I know we as a team definitely want the public to know about. This is a question from Stephen Buckley. So Stephen, hey, just want to say hi, Stephen. I've met Stephen before. And so his question is, okay, so this is what he says. So Stephen says, typically a rulemaking explains specifically how the public's input and feedback will be considered and used to affect the final product. His question is, okay, so were those same steps taken in revising regulations.gov? So basically, I think, Stephen, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're asking about in what way did input have a role, and perhaps even what types of input had a role in actually shaping this current release. And I'm going to open this up to Adam and Shinita, because there's actually a number of different sources that we use to get input and to also measure success for the site.
Yeah, I mean, we use a number, like Alex said, we use a number of tools to measure the usability and success of the site. First of all, we have usability experts on our team that review this. We're trained in producing and developing sites that are user friendly. We rely heavily on the 4C ACSI scores that provide both kind of a high level score and then a more detailed scoring in different areas that kind of guide us and help us measure improvements, the impact of improvements that we make. We have used usertesting.com to do independent reviews of the site. We have plans to participate in the federal-wide First Fridays site review program. We get help desk feedback, and we look at those. These things do not go into a black hole. They end up in our inboxes, and we review them and consider them. Let's see. I know so we have stuff on regulations.gov Exchange on the site design. What other ones have we done?
Well,
I know
the-
there's other things.
And then we also did stakeholder
Yeah, of course.
engagement.
We use Google Analytics. Thank you.
And-
To measure how people come into the site, where they're coming from, and where they land in the site. We have Crazy Egg, right? We have heat maps of where people are clicking, and that helps us gauge what features are more popular.
Also, Stephen, let me add too that ever since last November, we've been meeting different stakeholder groups periodically. So I mean, this is public knowledge, but we've been meeting with like OMB Watch, America Speaks, different scholars, and we've been talking to on the phone who specifically research the rulemaking process, but as well as do different analyses of the site. But the bottom line is this, and we're definitely open to hearing from everyone, and including social media. So if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, we definitely want to continually hear from you. Like I'll pose questions about different rules just to kind of start conversations, but also start conversations about how the site can benefit you and what changes you want to see for the future. So really, so all of our stakeholders definitely have a voice in the process. That's very important to us.
And I think we're close to out of time, but I wanted to say that if your question was more, how do we show commenters how their comments will be used in the regulatory process, please tweet us or email us, and we'll provide you an answer to that question too, just a written answer to that one as well, in case we kind of missed the gist of your question. Also, we want to just give greetings, I guess, from our program director, Duncan Brown. He couldn't be here today. He had planned on being here. He's really disappointed he couldn't be here, but I'm sure on his behalf, I'd like to thank you all for attending the webinar. He'd be really happy to see people are participating.
Yep, that's a wrap. Well, thanks you all for coming, and this was a lot of fun, and we'll be sure to do it again sometime. Okay, thanks a lot.